Welcome back to episode 9 of Trapani's Choice. Your host, Nick Trapani. I've got a little special for you today. I'm doing something a little bit different, throwing something in the mix. This isn't part of my top 6 most influential comedians. This episode's going to be based on my experience of stepping into the stand-up comedy world, the path of how I got into podcasting, and my journey, basically. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in getting into stand-up, you know, how I overcame that first set, I'm going to break all that down to you. I'm going to talk a little bit about all those things. But I want to start off today right at the beginning. I know I've touched on this in a couple of my other podcasts where with talking to the boys and everything like that about where it really started. And for me, it was as young as I can remember, even in primary school, of telling jokes that I'd heard. I had this fascination with jokes and laughing. I fucking love to laugh. And I wanted to make other people laugh. And home life was a little bit stressful and things like that. And I knew once I got to school, making people laugh was something that gave me this internal feeling of happiness myself. And I wanted to do that as much as possible. So I kind of guess I knew from a young age, I always wanted to be a fucking rock star. There's no doubt about that. The fame has always been at the forefront of my mindset, no matter what. Even if I've gone down different paths, like pursuing my career in remedial massage and starting a clinic, it was never about just the basics for me. You know, I originally thought I wanted to be a chef, but just being a chef wasn't enough. I wanted my own restaurant. I still have a huge passion for food, as you can tell. And, you know, it's always about not just being that level. Not that there's anything wrong with just being a chef, because there's amazing chefs out there. But just in my mindset, I wanted to be the best I could be at something. And in my mind, that would be the owner of a business or whatnot. And I've achieved that now, and that then brings me into my next venture in life. I feel like I'm at a stage where I'm ready for it. So, but in primary school, I remember telling jokes, and all through high school, I did as well. Now, I have mentioned in previous podcasts that I was a singer in a band. I don't think I was a very good singer, but I just wanted to be up front. I wanted to be on the mic and feeling comfortable with that. It's all been a journey to where I am now. And most people would sing in the shower or whatever they do, whereas I find that I would have been going over routines. Even though I wasn't doing stand-up, even though it wasn't a thing, in my mind, I was on stage and I was running through bits that I'd made up on the spot, how crowds would react. I love the storytelling of jokes. So standing, telling stories and whatnot. And it's a shame I didn't have a book writing a lot of these down. A lot of my mates will remember I used to sit in class and just write songs all day, because really that's where, at that stage of my life, I thought that I was going. I wanted to be a famous rock star. The style of music that we were playing was heavy metal, heavy rap influence as well. So that was the path. So I spent the majority of my time writing songs. I never did any schoolwork. I never read a book. I never did any of those things. My life was always about that next venture. So, and a lot of people will tell you along the way that if you don't study, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, you're never going to make it anywhere in life. And I'm going to prove that wrong. That's been my mindset. I'm going to do it a little bit different, because nothing's always one way. There's different ways around things. So I wish back then I was writing down jokes and things like that, because it'd be very interesting to see of where they were then to where they are now. Now, I have also spoken that, you know, especially in the younger ages, that there's some, you know, darker times. You're going through hormonal changes and whatnot. But one thing that I've sort of had probably more of recent as well, of people who have watched my podcast who I haven't seen in quite a while. And one thing that they comment on is that it's good to see that I haven't changed. You know, we can do different things in life. There's different chapters. You know, I've got married. I've had a son. Hasn't changed who I am. I remember going to a Bucks party once, and on the Bucks party, all the boys were playing up, and, you know, you go to the strippers and whatnot, and they're carrying on. I was just being myself as usual. Well, come the day of the wedding, and everyone's sitting around with their wives on the table, and there's me sitting there with my wife talking shit like I would have been on the Bucks party. And all the wives are looking at my wife going, how do you do it? And I'm sitting there going, you don't actually know your husbands. You don't know, because now in front of you, they're a different person. And I believe it's important not to change, that the people around you see you for who you are. And if they don't like that, that's their problem. They can deal with it. So, but back to my journey in comedy, I want to talk a little bit about how I then transitioned from it just being a thought in my head, or when it became a thought, to getting up on stage, because that's the most daunting thing, is that first set. So many years passed, and I guess the start of it for me was telling people I wanted to do it. That was the first step, because then it put pressure on me to do it. Now, I told the people closest to me, they knew that it was a thing, but more so like telling clients at work and stuff like that. So I'd be treating a client and just talking. You could imagine that some of them come in every single week, so you build up a really good relationship with them. You know a lot about each other's personal lives and whatnot. And there's that client, patient, client, therapist trust, you know, and you need to build that. So I remember starting to tell people that that's the road I wanted to go down, and I wanted to put myself out there. And it really, as I said, it was for me a push so that they could, you know, when they came back in again, they'd ask me if I'd done it, and I hadn't, you know, and I felt that little bit of shame, I guess, that I hadn't built up that courage. And then I decided to go down and check out a few open mic spots. And I found out there was this one at the, I've spoken about it before, at the Imperial Hotel. And what they did was I went there just the first time to watch with a friend. And the first set, they have people that they know. The second set is all new people pulled out of a hat. So I just really went down to get a feel of the place. I probably should have done more research. You know, they were a very young uni student feel about it, and very woke and politically correct. A lot of the guys were getting up saying that they were feminists. I remember that. I don't know if they were just trying to fuck someone that night or what, but you know, it was an interesting crowd. So look, it took me another month or so to get back up on stage, to go there and put my name down. It took 4 goes. So you could imagine they're calling out 11 names, and you're sitting there, and the panic, you know, my heart was pounding out of my chest. Was tonight going to be the night that I get called up and I have to perform? I'm locked in then. You know, there's no pulling out. And each time that my name didn't get called out, there was this little bit of relief. And I guess that I could go back and tell people, well, at least I put my name down. So it got to the stage where then that wasn't enough. And I said, enough's enough. Tonight's the night. I'm going down. I'm going to make myself known to everyone there. I took down a few of my mates, the guys that were in episode number 4. And we went down. I spoke to everyone beforehand. I went in with confidence. And what actually happened was they called out the so-called 11 names. and my name didn't get called again. And by this stage, as I said, I'd made myself present to everyone there. So everyone, every time a name got called out, I had a group of maybe 6 or so people around booing when it wasn't me. So, they got around me and supported me, which also felt good, that sort of, that they wanted to hear me. And what actually happened was they apparently counted wrong. So they pulled one more name, and it was my name. Now, that fear suddenly kicked in at that time when everyone was supporting me. I felt good. I felt confident oh shit, now I've got to do this. So the first bracket, obviously it was 10 people who they'd picked before, 11 people. And then it started going through, and people leave after their set. They leave. They don't hang around. They're not really interested in what other people are doing. So by the time I got on, there was my 3 other mates and one of their partners. And there might have been 5 or 6 people left, including the MC and the lady that runs the night. Now, the MC called me on. Now, before everyone else, that they get up, that they know, they say, oh, this is a very close friend of mine, blah, 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 they're going to do so well. Please make sure you laugh and clap as loud as you can. Well, before I got on, the MC introduced me by saying, now, I don't even know who this guy is. So where are you, Nick Trapini? Everyone gets my name wrong, So I get up on stage, and I had put this set. It took me about 6 months to put this set together. I thought the concept of it was really good. It was very shock value, as you could imagine. I had jokes in there that now I know a little bit more that need to be tweaked. I haven't gone back to every single one of those jokes, which I will. I'll go back and perform them again. But what I didn't realize that I did was I got up, and because these weren't tweaked in a way that you're getting the crowd on your side before you say things and saying controversial things, I had a couple of jokes in there about my son being gay and he doesn't know it yet. He's only 3. I think that's a really funny concept, because I took him into a shop once when he was like 6 months old. It was a designer bag shop for my wife, and I'm just sort of bored. So the sales assistant comes over and she said, can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. And I just pointed to a bag and I said, oh, what about that bag up there? To my wife, and the sales assistant says, oh no, that's more for a younger child, and looks into the pram and points and goes, oh no, it's a boy. And I said, oh, well, he's gay. And she looked me dead in the eyes and she said, how do you know? How do you know? I said, well, look at him. I mean, he was 6 months old. He's wrapped up in one of those things. He's got a beanie on. The fact that she even asked me that, I thought, I need to make some jokes about this, because also the other side that I find really funny is that, obviously we're becoming a lot more open with people accepting gays and lesbians and everything now in this day and age. So I still find it funny that there's that old school dad mentality that wouldn't be okay with it, and the fact that I was raising him to be gay. But as I said, I hadn't tweaked the jokes and perfected them to the point where I was getting the crowd on my side before that. So I finished the set, and the MC got back on and said, well, you can say that you've done comedy now, Nick. You can say you've done comedy now. Now, my friends were more furious than I was that that's how she reacted. I didn't let it get to me on the night. I was a little bit taken back by the whole experience. I really needed to watch over. My friends recorded it. I went over the video again. I went over it. And then I thought, am I able to do this? Am I capable? I still had this drive to do it. But I guess what the MC didn't realize is that a lot of people would give up after that. after a comment just like that might be enough just to crush someone. Now, not a bad thing for, someone like her, who then it lessens the playing field, right? There's not as many people to compete with in comedy. But, very harsh. Now you can say that you've done comedy. And I walked away from that and really started to think about what the direction I was going to go. And I thought back to when I studied massage and that, and I thought, well, let's study it. Let's see if there's a course. So I jumped online, and literally the first one that came up, I booked into. I'm not going to name any names, but it was just a week-long course every night. And I thought, you know what, I've been looking after my son for 3 years at that stage. I needed to do something for me. So a little bit selfish of me, I went out every night into the city and studied this course on writing, basically the inside to stand-up comedy. And I learnt a couple of tools in, as I said, getting the crowd on your side, which is something that I didn't really look into. So then I started rewriting my set. I started putting different jokes in, writing new jokes, and doing it in this way, this new format that I'd learned. What had also happened is there might have been 8 people in the course who you then form a friendship with, and you push each other to go out and do open mic nights. And then I been to several different open mic nights around Melbourne. The great thing before this pandemic was you could go out almost any night of the week and perform somewhere at one of these open mic nights. And and being around that and listening to comedy a lot, you then write a lot more because it's on your mind a lot. So as I said, the first set that I didn't go so well. So there was a lot of nervousness about getting up the second time, and especially this time because now I was doing it in front of people who I was in this class with, and I believe there was different types of people in the class who wanted different things out of it. Some of it was for they're writers, and in their job they want to be able to add comedy into their writing. Others were for screenplays, others for TV shows that they were working on. Some of it was just about stepping outside of their comfort zone and standing in front of people talking. And I guess that's a point that I try and make a lot to people, especially when you go to open mic nights and things like that, because, sometimes people can say, oh, that was rubbish, or that person was whatever. Now, there's one thing about standing up in front of people and talking, presenting something. It might be at work, whatever, and you've written something down and then you get up and you do that. It's very different in getting up and performing a joke with timing, with a narrative, with a punchline, with making people laugh. That if they don't laugh at that joke, you then have to move to the next one and try and get that laugh. So, next time just go in with an open mind that it's not always, easy to do or to perform those jokes, and especially if people aren't laughing. And I've definitely had those nights where I've gone out and, it just might mean that people aren't into that type of humor. You don't know who's going to be there until you create a following, until you get a group of people that follow you and come to your shows knowing what to expect. And I spoke about that in the last episode that I did of Jim Jeffries, of people walking out and leaving, not knowing what to expect with his stuff, to now you've got 13,000 people showing up at Rod Laver and loving every minute of it. So that second time that I got up, obviously I wanted to impress my classmates. New venue. It was in St Kilda, and there was quite a lot of people there that night, actually. And I got up and I did really well. I was really happy with my set. My classmates still enjoyed it, even though they'd heard a lot of my jokes in the class. It got a good reaction from the crowd. And then you start to form sort of friendships with the other comedians there. And so I would go to that one quite regularly, actually. There were nights where the same set just didn't work. There were nights where my mood was flat for whatever reason. It's hard. You have to perform no matter what. You don't see that. You don't see what's happened in that day to see how that person performs. But one thing that I've noticed is that when I'm on stage, I'm as relaxed as you'll ever find me. You might see that I'm quite anxious beforehand. I'm going through my set. I'm going through things a little bit more comfortable with it now. But prior to that, it was really, you couldn't talk to me beforehand. Now, one night I took my wife down. She hadn't seen me perform. She'd known that I've gone out all these nights, and not that she didn't support me, but it was more so like, you're taking a lot of family time out here for something I don't know is going to work. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, the night that she came out, it was a really hard crowd. I was 10th on the list. So the 9 people before me, as I said, it was a hard night. Not many laughs, and I'm sitting there going, fuck, I've brought her out here. She's not going to enjoy it. I'm going to bomb, and I'm trying to prove myself to her. And this is playing in the back of my mind, along with having to do my set as well. Now, as I said, there were some other comedians there that night that I'd got to know quite well. So I got up and I did my set, and I just went up with the confidence of not caring like I always do. I did my bit. It didn't matter what it was. I didn't think that, they were offended with that stuff previously or whatever. I just did my set, and I did really well. I thoroughly enjoyed that set, and afterwards I could see my wife shift into believing now, and that there was something here. And luckily enough, as I said, there was a comedian there that had helped me quite a lot. And after the show, he came up and actually said to my wife, now you can see that there is a spot for Nick in the comedy industry, and that he's not just going out wasting time night after night. And it was just that a stranger to her, saying that and confirming what she may have already started to think, and explain the process of comedy to, maybe when you're putting together special, you need to go out maybe 3 nights a week. But once you perform that special, then you can have a bit of downtime with the family. Now, for me, the goal is to pursue a full-time career in stand-up comedy. I want to be touring not only Australia, I want to be touring the world. That's my goal. And I'm working every minute of the day to get to that. I think it's about each day to take one step further to being in that position. And it's okay to have times that you don't. You can't be down on yourself when you have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. But at some point, you've got to turn that around. Now, one thing I also want to talk about is that not everyone's going to believe in you. And sometimes it's those closest to you who say little things, little negs, and you know that they're doing it. It might be out of jealousy. It might be just that they're unaware of how that might affect you. And when you are putting yourself out there, be doing a podcast, being on stage, anything, we're putting everything out there, completely and utterly vulnerable for attack. And we do take those things to heart. I do find that comedians actually are some of the most insecure people going around. Remember, most of us have gone through some form of trauma to why we're here. It's not for everyone comedy. And sometimes that trauma is actually the driving force to, get to where we are in comedy. So we are quite sensitive. We do need that love, we do need that support. So, but don't be upset when people do that. Remember, they've got their own reasons. Maybe they want to get into comedy, but they don't have the courage to get up there and do it. It's like when someone is smoking and they give up, all their friends offer them a cigarette because, if they can't quit, why should you be able to quit? It's the same mentality. You're doing something with your life that they wish that they could do. And for whatever reason, it might be just that they're stuck in their family life. They can't do it, so they try and put you down. I've had some close people say some very, very funny things to me. But one good thing is my family have all been very supportive. My dad in particular told me one night, one day we were driving actually, and he said, look, son, you got a good thing with your massage clinic, blah, blah, blah. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket here with the comedy. Mind you, I hadn't really performed at that stage. The drive was just there. It was all I was talking about, all I was doing. And I said to him that day, I said, Dad, if I go in with that attitude that I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. Failure is not an option here. I will just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until I get there. Now, after my first set, he said, son, I might have been wrong with what I said. You've got something here. And he asked for the footage of my set, and, he started sharing it with his friends and talking about it with people. And, it's good when there's someone who, especially for a son, has always had their father that they want to give them that little bit of, to say that they're happy with what they're doing, no matter what it is. A son will look up to his father for that, and we may not feel like we get it when we're younger. We might be getting it. We just don't feel like it's enough. We need that little bit more, that my dad believes in me or my dad supports me. So it feels good that I've got him on board. Now, once again, my comedy is very different to his. He's especially with me, straight down the line. I was never allowed to swear in front of him, which I still do. I've been doing. I remember saying at 15, why are you telling me to stop swearing? I'm never going to stop. But he supports what I do on stage. He respects it as a form of art and what I do. So that also helps me. So don't let anyone tell you can't do it. And if you have had a set where you've gotten up and it didn't go well the first time, which for me it didn't, so I just advise that go back and do a little bit of research on what it was that they didn't like. And just remember, it just might be that crowd. Even if they don't laugh, if they change how they sit or they move a certain way, pick up on these things because you've made a reaction. Work out what that reaction is. Sometimes I'm okay if you don't laugh. If you are shocked and the whole crowd goes, oh, that's a reaction, right? So I've got a joke where there's three basically punchlines before the major punchline at the end. And, they get laughs. And then I get to the last one, which is the main bang. And people are shocked. And I get that reaction of, oh, they went on that journey with me. And I got what I wanted out of it. Because sometimes I want it to be about me too. And I want to laugh at them, being shocked by that joke. So don't let anyone tell you can't do it. Keep getting up and doing it. And, there's a lot of times now, even though I'm putting out these podcasts, and I'll get into that in a minute, there's an internal battle that I have with myself daily. That a lot of the times it's at night, when I go to bed, when everything's quiet, when you've got more time to think, and I doubt myself. I talk to myself and say, Nick, I don't think you've got this. Or do you really want this? Do you want, what happens if it kicks off too fast? What happens are you going to be okay with people knowing who you are? Are you this? Are you that? And I constantly doubt myself. Now, when I wake up in the morning, luckily enough, it's a new day and there's no other option other than forward with this. So I get up, I turn the lights on, and I record. Or I write my set, and I go out and I perform. There's no other option. And then sometimes on those days where it's the toughest, is something will happen. Maybe it's someone asking you to come on their Instagram live. Maybe it's someone you meet that provides you with the opportunity to do an online course with someone within comedy. It could be absolute, or just someone saying that they just like your shit is enough to then go, all right, I've got to keep pushing. So don't think when you see people out there that are actually performing when you're not at that stage yet. We battle too. We battle that. You are so vulnerable up on stage that it becomes almost impossible to do at some stages. But you do need to push forward. If it's something that you want to do, all I suggest is you go out and do it. And by that drive, people around you also start doing the things that they want to do. Now, through this journey, one person in particular has believed in me the most, and that just happens to be the person that I am doing this podcast with. I know he's not here. I know you don't see him, but he is behind the scenes on absolutely everything. Now, we've been friends since we were 5 or 6. We started playing basketball together, and I actually looked up to him. He was a far better basketballer than me. He was taller. He was better looking. Even through high school, the girls loved him. He had this charisma about him. He was funny. Still to this day, one of the funniest people I've ever met. The one-liners, the comments, the offending people. He doesn't give a fuck either. And I just admired it. I still to this day look up to him and his ability to do anything that he wants to do, that he sets his mind to. And he has believed in me. Now, I would send him sets and he would tell me straight whether it was good, what I was doing. And he can read me like no one else. He knows when I'm anxious, when no one else does. He sees it. He picks apart everything that I do in this and gives me pointers to better that, to watch out for that, to do this. I don't even know how he picks up on half of them because I don't know that I'm doing them. My own wife probably doesn't notice them at times. He doesn't miss a trick. Now, he was the one that said, we're going to do a podcasting thing here. We're going to do this. And in the beginning, there were lots of different ideas of how to get to that. But he was the one that set me up with everything that I'm doing now is because he believed in it. And it's a direction that we both pushed in together. Now, we speak maybe 5 or 6 times a day on the phone, trying to perfect this, to talk about this, to me recording, to sending it over to him editing it, to then sending it back, checking if I like it, going back and forth. This is a constant thing. And the production of these podcasts, I couldn't be more happy with at the moment. And to get to this stage with him and to be on this journey with him. But it took for him to believe so much in me and my ability to do this to then start doing podcasting to where I'm at a stage where I'm comfortable sitting here in front of the camera talking to you guys, and the challenges of not being able to interview people like a normal podcast, to being able to sit here on my own, to doing little series that looks like we're going to have to keep doing because we've gone into a further 6-week lockdown in Melbourne, stage 4 restrictions. So it gives me more time to work on this, and we're going to have to come up with different ideas of series that we're going to do, which I'm looking forward to doing, and I can't wait to get these out for you. And I'm really enjoying doing this series that I'm doing at the moment and taking my time to go over other comedians that I really, some of them I didn't realize how much they impacted me into comedy. I'm getting a few questions about what about this comedian, what about that comedian, why didn't they make your list? It's not my favorite comedians of all time, some of them. Some of them are just how that they have been the biggest influences and why. So, something it might be about how they write, how they do things. It might have been their journey into comedy that's inspired me There's so many other comedians out there that are on my list, but these 6 are, and it was very hard to get to that 6. So I hope you're enjoying this series that I'm doing, and the next one to come out will be Anthony Jeselnik. If you haven't heard of him before or seen him, he's not as big as the others. Definitely check out some of his stuff, maybe before the podcast comes out, which will be out shortly. But I wanted to bring this one to you guys as a little bit of inspiration to anyone who's thinking about doing stand-up comedy, or even acting, or playing in a band, anything that is some form of art that you're putting yourself out there that you don't know whether you should. Maybe it even be a job that you don't know whether you have what it takes. Fake it till you make it. You know, you want to, if you don't ever try, you'll always wonder, what if? Look, if you are looking at doing something creative like doing stand-up or podcasting or whatnot, make sure that you get out there and you do it. And you use this as a little bit of an example of that. Now, I find that when I'm practicing my stand-up, I've got a microphone stand at home and my microphone, and I walk up behind it, I take it off, and I start talking into it. It just feels so good. It feels right. Maybe there's an energy there that that drives me to do it, that makes it feel good, that makes it feel right. And that's why I keep pushing myself. So if something feels good like that and it's beneficial for other people, do it. So I'll leave you on that one, guys. You can check out my next podcast, which is going to be Anthony Jeselnik. So if you don't know who he is, go out and check out who he is. He's a fantastic comedian. He's been on the roasts of Donald Trump, a few of the others. I'll get into that with you. So you can find all of my content on YouTube. So make sure that you go to my YouTube, you subscribe, help us out, guys. We want those numbers up. Click like if you've liked the video, if you've enjoyed even just any of it, click like. Even if you don't like it, click like. Leave us a comment. We'd love to know what you are enjoying. Also, if there's things that you want us to discuss about, we are having different series that we're going to be doing. So if there's something you want to, you want me to talk about, make sure you let us know in the comment section. You can also find some of my unplugged material, some other content on my Instagram page at Trapani's Choice. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. Also, you can find me on SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts. So look, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It's been great running through my journey into stand-up comedy and how I've gotten to where I am now. So enjoy, guys, and we'll see you in about a week with Anthony Jeselnik. See you guys. Enjoy.